Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. You're listening to My Strategy. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're very happy to be here with you today and glad you could join us. Our episodes are live and on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today we're going to be talking about developing your expert power. We're going to talk about the value in being an expert, the benefits of experts, why we need them, become the go-to person, leverage experts for your gain, and how to find your expert power. Well, again, very happy to be here with you today. Saturday is a great day of the week to reflect, but keep in mind that any day of the week is a good time to assess your strategy. Our show continues to grow. We're available on iHeart, iTunes, Player FM, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and many more digital platforms. So if you'd like to listen to this show or another one, you can find them there. You can find me on most social media platforms at Hawkins John. That's my Twitter handle at Hawkins John. Or you can go to my website at johnmhawkins.com. Just like anything in life, we need to have a strategy and a plan to help us reach our goals because the best laid plans don't always work. This week I'm looking for stories on your experiences with either being the expert or experts that you've used in the past. Do you have any good stories, a tip or a trick? Send it to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. Weekly, we take those, enter them into our weekly giveaway, and if your name is chosen, you will be awarded a very prestigious prize package. Well, develop your expert power. We're going to be talking today about the reasons experts are important in our life. In fact, experts are faster. Sometimes non-experts come across as experts, which can be a little bit misleading. We're also going to talk about the reasons you need to be an expert in something with regard to building your brand. An expert attracts people. You can help gain influence, attract attention. We're then going to talk a little bit about how experts differ from novices. Experts have content knowledge. Experts' knowledge cannot be reduced to a single set of isolated facts. Experts can flexibly retrieve aspects of knowledge with little effort. We're going to talk a little bit then about why you should become an expert. In fact, looking at new social media trends, search engines, that all has an implication into why we all need to develop our expert power. And finally, we're going to go through some ideas on how you can develop your own expert power, why you should build these expertise, how to choose an area to develop, and putting your plan in place to become the expert. I'm going to start with an article I've got here by Josh Patrick. He says 4 reasons experts are important in your life. It says here, if you own a business, you have a need for experts in your life. You hire accountants, lawyers, consultants, and bankers to help you with your business. Sometimes you get great advice, and sometimes you get advice that hurts more than it helps. I think it's important to pause here and say that this isn't just about businesses, but this article does apply to our own personal development as well. And if you're working for an organization, it absolutely applies as well. So he says here that there's a New York Times article where it talked about hiring the wrong person cost an owner over 50% of their sales price. She didn't use the right type of advisors. Some of these people said they were experts, and some were just the wrong type of people to use. So he says experts are faster at their work. When you hire a real expert, they aren't doing their activity for the first time. In fact, you'll find they have likely done the activity well over 100 plus times. Experts are often a little older, might have personalities that support their expertise, and are very quick in answering your questions. Experts also charge more money than others. When you hire an expert, you want results, and you want results created quickly with few mistakes. Experts can produce these results for you, and they charge what they have learned. So if you think about it, if you were an expert, you might be able to do your work faster. Also, you would be in more demand, and based on supply and demand, that typically equates to larger pay. He says non-experts sometimes come across as being experts. A non-expert can give the impression they're an expert at what you need. How many times does this happen to you? You know people and they say, oh, I can help you with that. A friend, a family member. but are they really the expert? And if they're not, they could be doing more harm than good. It says likely this is someone you've had a long relationship with. They are adequate for simple things that don't have a lot of risk. When it comes time to making changes in your life where there is a lot of money or a lot of effort at risk, you need the best. Experts are often afraid, non-experts are often afraid of experts. Non-experts don't want to lose you as the client. There's a belief among advisors that if their clients wander off and use experts, that the generalist that works with you might lose you as a client. I think this is important. Those who are not experts in their field sometimes go out there and make lots of recommendations. They, have suggestions and come up with ideas and ways that you can go about doing things. But what he's saying here is that those non-experts could do more harm. And also, some of these non-experts are scared of the experts. He says you need generalists just as much as you need the experts. If the advisors that you use on a daily basis are afraid of losing your business, they might have a good reason to feel that way. They might not have spent enough time truly understanding what motivates you and what outcomes you want. If your everyday advisor takes time to really learn what you want, they can help you manage your experts and should have no reason to be afraid of losing your business. So what he's saying here is that it's not just hiring one expert, but he said the generalist can also help as well. And I think, as we talk about strategy and personal development every week, it helps to get lots and lots of different opinions. He says here, one of your experts should be your generalist. A generalist who's an expert at being a generalist knows several things, the first of which being they know that they don't know everything about everything. They know when to bring in an expert. They know when the cost of not doing so would be higher than doing so. He says an expert generalist will help you identify important answers before you start working with a specialist. He goes on to give several examples about if you're installing a computer system or other. But how do we relate that to personal development and what we're working on? I think it comes down to the fact that while we do have friends, family members, and those who do provide lots of input, and others who will claim to be experts, are they really the expert? So I think there's a couple things here. Number one, by you developing your expert power, you can provide additional value to those around you. Also, by understanding how the process works, you can help coach others. And in coaching others, that is going to help develop your skills as well. Because I think no matter what job you're in, whether you're a consultant, working for somebody else, growing your own business, whatever you do, there's always the need to have the general advisors and also those who are experts. Today, we're really going to be focusing on how we can find our expertise. And in finding our expertise, people are going to want to come to us for those expert decisions. I think it's also important to remember that we can too be generalists, but know when you need to be the generalist and when you need to be the expert. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about the reasons you need to be an expert in something. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is My Strategy. I'm John M. Hawkins, and we're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. I'd love to get your phone calls, and we'll be taking those a little later in the show. You can call us at 866-451-1451. That's 866-451-1451. Or send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. And if you do send in an email with your ideas for becoming an expert, you'll be entered into our weekly giveaway. Right before the break, we were talking about 4 reasons that experts were important in our lives. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit more about some of those reasons why we need to be an expert. Got an article here by Brian Horn. He's talking about the reasons you need to be an expert at something. He goes on talking a little bit about business, and a lot of this is geared toward growing your business, but I think this also is applicable to our own personal lives, our personal development. He says, eventually, when you are seen as an expert or an authority in your field, your brand becomes well-known and profitable. In addition to those attributes, there are 7 other real reasons you need to become an expert at something, and he lists them below. I think this is an important construct here. Your brand will become well-known and profitable. Well, what is your brand? There's your individual brand, who you are as a person. If you are a celebrity or well-known, that is your brand. If you are a leader in an organization, a CEO, a president, somebody who runs the organization, that's all part of your brand. If you're in the accounting department and you're the #1 accountant and help save millions of dollars, you're an expert, and that helps build your brand. So I think as we start to think about this expertise and whether we are an expert or an authority in something, there's a brand implication as well. He says you don't have to chase clients, they will come to you. Your customers will come to you when you become an expert in your field. He says he is thought of as an expert in the field of finances, yet he doesn't ever lobby for work and doesn't seem to compete with anyone. He simply offers his advice and is seen as an authority. Therefore, customers come to him. I think one of the sessions that we were talking about prior, one of the episodes, we were talking about leadership. One of the things that a leader needs to do is be a teacher. That's similar to what we have here with the experts. It says then people come, buy their books, attend their seminars, they read their websites, all due to the fact that this person is now considered an expert in their field. I think that's important. We're going to talk a little bit later in the show about, social media and how it is important to gain good Google and other search engine rankings. Search engines now are looking for content that is more specific, that is not just broad and general, and having an expertise in a specific article or blog can help with those results. He says your advice is no longer called into question by your customers. In general, when someone knows something and what they're talking about, you probably won't argue with them. The surgeon, for example, knows a lot more about the inner workings of the human body. I think that's fair to say. If you're having a conversation with someone and you're talking about a pain in your elbow or, you have a sore leg, and then they identify themselves as a surgeon or perhaps a doctor, that's going to have a bigger impact on you than if you're talking to your buddy or your friend. If you're talking to a buddy or friend, you're going to listen to what they have to say and probably think, no, that's not what I have. But if the surgeon or doctor is there, they automatically have this expert authority. And that's the kind of expert authority and power that we're trying to develop. When people hear your name, they're going to associate you as being the expert. And as you being the expert, you're going to be naturally given that authority. You'll gain influence with your marketplace. If you consider an expert within your field or marketplace, you'll be able to influence others within that realm. For example, if you own a home remodeling company and have worked your way up, being considered an expert in the field, other home remodeling professionals will likely copy or at least admire what you do. I think this is really important as you think about the new business models that are out there. Who would have thought that 10 years ago we would have had social media empires built off of personas, people's personas. I don't think we had We didn't think that would happen. We had the traditional ways of getting information out with news organizations, but now you have the ability to create new marketplaces, new platforms. And so this is one of those things that we can do is as you are starting to build your influence within a specific marketplace or platform, and there's many out there, you're going to start to network, become better known, and as a result, that's going to open up opportunities for you. So you can raise your rates for services rendered. When a customer hires someone to do a service or to provide a product, they will pay more for it if that person is considered an expert in their field. Using the aforementioned points, he says, he gives some examples below. Would you pay more for a financial book written by a well-known financial expert than you would for a book written by some unknown accountant? You probably would, and of course you would, the author says. In the same way, your customers will be willing to pay more for your services. So part of that has to do with, the expert brand that that individual has. You can have an accountant who knows just as much as somebody who has the social media influence, but because of the social media influence and that brand, they are seen in, could be in higher demand than that expert accountant. I think that's important to know and think about because you might be the expert in the field. You could be the best of the best. But if you don't market yourself, if you don't brand yourself, if you're not out there sharing what you know, how would anyone know that you are the expert? Number 5 is you will attract attention due to your role as an authority. Once you're considered an expert in your field, you will get the attention you deserve. This could include invites to be on television, radio, or involve publishers asking for you to share your insights regarding your book. So there you go. If you have some sort of expert, and in this case, they're talking about writing a book or having, presence on the internet or having, writing articles, that's going to demonstrate your thought leadership. He says here also you have a clear understanding of your marketplace message. Becoming good at utilizing authority marketing and become expert in your fields means you have clear understanding of your overall marketing message. I think this is very important. It's easy to write lots and lots of information about your message, your marketing, what you do. The hard part is to boil that down into a few salient points and create your brand. Think about, additionally, authorities and other experts will seek you. You know you're truly an expert when others begin to seek you out. After all, another expert should be able to recognize the value you have. You're listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about how experts differ from novices. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. The show is called My Strategy. Today we're talking about developing your expert power. We're talking about the value of being the expert, the benefits of being the expert, why we need them, become the go-to person, leverage experts for your own gain, and how to find your expert power. We are looking for your thoughts. If you send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com, that's talk@johnmhawkins.com, you can be entered into our weekly giveaway. Right before the break, we were talking about reasons we needed to be an expert in something. In this segment, I want to talk about how experts differ from novices. And I've got here a book, and I have Chapter 2. It is from the National Academic Press, How People Learn, Brain-Mind Experience in School. This is the expanded edition, and the chapter is on how experts differ from novices. I'm not going to go through and read the entire chapter, but I do think there are some interesting thoughts here that we might want to, interesting concepts that we might want to think about. People who have developed expertise in particular areas, by definition, are able to think effectively about problems in those areas. Understanding expertise is important because it provides insight into the nature of thinking and problem solving. Research shows that it is not simply general abilities such as memory or intelligence, nor the use of general strategies that differentiate experts from novices. Instead, experts have acquired extensive knowledge that affects what they notice, how they organize, represent, and interpret information in their environment, thus, in turn, affects their abilities to remember, reason, and problem solve. And I think that's there's a lot of important information in this first paragraph. But first and foremost, I want to point out memory or intelligence. I do not think that memory or intelligence is something that would limit you from being an expert. But really, it's how you organize information, how you are able to use that to remember, reason, and solve problems. All comes down to problem solving. Everything in life is a problem that needs to be solved. The faster you are at solving it, the higher your social net worth. He says this chapter illustrates a key scientific findings that have come from the study of people who have developed expertise in the areas such as chess, physics, mathematics, electronics, and history. They say we discuss these examples not because all school children are expected to become expert in these other areas, but because the study of expertise shows what the results of successful learning look like. In later chapters, they're going to explore what is known about the process of learning. So it goes on to say, it says here, they have 7 key principles of expert knowledge and their potential implication. Experts notice features and more meaningful patterns of information that are not noticed by novices. Number 2, experts have acquired a great deal of content knowledge that is organized in a way that reflects a deep understanding of their subject matter. Number 3, experts' knowledge cannot be reduced to a set of isolated facts or propositions, but instead reflects context of applicability. That is, the knowledge is conditionalized on a set of circumstances. Experts are able to flexibly retrieve important aspects of their knowledge with little additional effort. Though experts know their disciplines thoroughly, this does not guarantee that they are able to teach others. That's an interesting point. And experts have a varying level of flexibility in their approach to new situations. It says here, one of the earliest studies of expertise demonstrated that the same stimulus is perceived and understood differently depending on the knowledge that person brings to the situation. This is according to de Groot from 1965, who was interested in an understanding of how world-class chess masters are consistently able to outthink their opponents. Chess masters and less experienced, but still extremely good players were shown examples of chess games and asked to think out loud as they decided on the move they were to make if they were one of the players. De Groot's hypothesis was that the chess master would become more likely than the non-master to think through all the possibilities before making a move. You figured they had a greater breadth of search. And also, B, think through all the possible counter moves of the opponent for every move considered. Greater depth of search. In this pioneering research, the chess masters did exhibit considerable breadth and depth to their searches, but so did the lesser-ranked chess players, and none of them conducted searches that covered all the possibilities. Yet somehow the chess masters considered possibilities for moves that were of higher quality than those considered by the less experienced players. Some others had other differences in general strategies. So the conclusion was that the knowledge acquired over tens of thousands of hours of playing enabled chess masters to outplay their opponents. And these masters were more likely to recognize meaningful chess configurations and realize the strategic implications of these situations. This recognition allowed them to consider sets of possible moves that were superior to others. The meaningful patterns seemed readily apparent to the masters. So it's interesting here because I think that as we all go through life trying to make decisions, it's one thing to go out and do the pros and cons and figure out the facts. You know, if you've got two decisions to make, I've got to make decision A, I've got to make decision B. Well, the first step is to pro and con it and figure out, what would be the best choice. If we're not an expert and we are looking at two options, option A and option B, we don't have the experience. We don't know. We might be able to come to some conclusions on what the choices are, but only the true expert is going to be able to provide you with the most effective answer, the most effective outcome. And I think that's what's demonstrated here with the Groot's research and the chess players. But how does this apply to our daily lives? Well, I think it applies in a number of respects. Everything we do is a problem, or there's a problem that needs to be solved. The more common or knowledge we have helps us, but we really need that expert knowledge to be able to make the effective decision. And so that's how the experts differ from the novices. So when it comes time to making a decision, you can ask a generalist, but they don't have the 10,000 hours worth of practical knowledge that an expert does. So if you were to go consult with the expert, you're going to get most likely a more effective choice as opposed to a alternative or a optional choice. And, I think that comes down to, as we go about trying to build our strategic plans, trying to come up with all the various options that we can do, we're not always going to be given the answers, and we need to find ways to get them. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about 21 reasons why you must become the experts. And this has to do with social media. You're not going to want to miss this. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. You're listening to My Strategy. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, if you're just joining us, welcome. Our My Strategy episodes are live and on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today we're talking about developing your expert power, talking about the value of being the expert, the benefits of experts, why we need them, become the go-to person, leverage experts to help you for your gain, and how to find your expert power. We'd love to get your thoughts. Send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. You can be entered into our weekly giveaway and give us your thoughts about experts. Right before the break, we were talking about how experts differ from novices. Some interesting stuff here around that, and how experts have the ability to make higher quality decisions. In this segment, I want to pivot a little bit and talk about reasons why we must become an expert. And this was written by Eric Ng. And he takes a little bit different approach on this. He talks about the search economy built by Google and other search engines. And what he talks about here is SEO tactics, SEO rankings. How does all this apply? Well, SEO is search engine optimization. Search engine optimization is the algorithm with the big search engines that basically gives them the ability to search through millions and trillions of pieces of information, take a look at the data, rank those pages according to quality of content, relevance, and other things. So here he's talking about why it is important for us to be an expert. There's 21 of the things here, so hopefully we're going to get through all of them in this segment. But one, he says, search engines are making a clear shift in favor of quality. So if you're the expert and you put quality out there, odds are your content is going to be ranked higher. He says, no one cares what you think if you aren't an expert. He says, I know this sounds harsh, but he's not talking about your friends or social conversations here. And I think that makes sense. If you are going to Dr. Google and trying to diagnose a condition that you might have, I would think you would lean towards those people who were the experts. It says you will understand your business better. Knowing the subject matter of your business cold is the first step in creating a business that runs efficiently. It says that is important and needed. Number 4 is create content is much easier if you actually know something. That one seems pretty obvious. How many times do you try and create content for the sake of creating content? You're not the expert. It becomes difficult. Build a lean content marketing team. I don't know if that applies to our personal development, but we, as our content and authorities, need to be able to produce this. So when we're the experts, I guess we're the lean marketing team. He says that you can predict upcoming changes to your market better. With expertise comes more knowledge about the players in your industry and other things they do. Number 8 is communities will form around you. People trust experts. They want to meet the experts. People will want to work for you. Number 10 is 11, people will want to buy from you. I think we kind of established that a little bit earlier, that people want experts in their lives. They can help them make better decisions. And when it comes time to completing a goal, trying to get ahead in life, we want to take as few steps as possible. Number 12, media will want to interview you. Both traditional and new media depends on experts to flesh out stories. Other media will want you to write for them. That's number 13. Other experts will want to meet you. Experts are drawn to other experts, and that can open out to an introduction to their audience. So imagine if you've got a bunch of different experts, and they're experts on a specific subject, and they have a very large audience or following, and they invite you. You've amplified your ability, your market potential by them introducing you to their market. Other experts will want to collaborate with you. No expert is looking for collaboration within a publisher of a thin weekly research content. I think that's true. We all want to have the facts, but we also want to have the options. Number 16, growing a social media following is easy. He says this eventually happens. Even if you don't work at it, people figure out your social profiles are and want to connect with you. Number 17, your posts will get more comments. People will want to share their thoughts with you and develop a connection with you. Number 18, your articles will draw more links. 19, the distribution of your content on social networks will grow exponentially. More tweets, plus ones, and likes will spread your message further every day. I think that's important too. You know, you can provide replies and tweets to comments, but if you are providing likes and tweets and retweets and providing some additional context or asking a question, that shows that you are more interested in the subject and potentially demonstrate you're an expert. Conference presentations will draw more people. Experts make more money. So those are some of the examples. And I think, you know, as I went through this article and was thinking about what Eric had to say with regard to the marketing aspect of it, I think a lot of it makes sense. We're living in a completely different age than we were 5 or 10 years ago. And now it's not just about being an expert and known through traditional media, traditional publishing. There's also a lot of social out there. And being an expert and demonstrating your expertise in those mediums, realms, digital platforms can actually really help you from a brand perspective. And so if we are an expert or want to develop our expert power, then that's going to give us an advantage over those who do not have that. So all of this is really part of the strategy that we're working on from a personal development perspective. How do we go about thinking differently? How do we go about identifying what our expertise is? And then how do we go about providing that expertise strategically across multiple platforms so that more people gain access to us and see us as the expert, authority, or thought leader? You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about building expertise and developing and using in-depth knowledge. We're going to talk about how to do that. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, very happy to have you here with us. Right before the break, we were talking about 21 reasons why you must become an expert. And this was really around SEO optimization and social content. In the segment, I want to talk about building your expertise. How do we go about doing that? I've got an article here by a company that I use quite a bit. They have some pretty good little helpful tips and tools. It's called Mind Tools. Basically, for a lot of these areas that I focus on for personal development, they have some pretty good tips. So we're going to leverage a little bit of that in this segment. It says here, building expertise, developing and using in-depth knowledge. It says we all have some level of expertise. We couldn't do our jobs if we didn't, but how many of us can say that we're genuine experts in our area? It says maybe you do consider yourself an expert. You spent years building your knowledge, you're confident with your skills, your coworkers regularly seek your advice, but despite your expertise, you may be little known outside of your close circle of colleagues, or this could limit your opportunities for progression. So again, this ties back into the segment right before this one, where you could be the expert, you could be that accountant, you could be somebody who knows more, but if you don't have the social presence, if you aren't marketing yourself, if you're not out there, people will not know about you. And as a result, they're not going to seek you. It says, but why build the expertise? An expertise is someone who is an authority on a particular subject or has mastered a specific technique or skill. When you become the expert, you'll become the go-to person for help and advice. You'll become innovative in your role, too, because you'll be able to spot opportunities. This can open doors to better assignments, promotions, speaking invitations, and a greater reputation. With expertise comes the potential to develop expert power. Managed correctly, expert power earns trust and respect from others, making it easier to inspire people and get everyone on board with new projects and ideas. How great does that sound? They say it can be deeply rewarding. Now, the question is, how do you build your expert reputation? What areas should you focus on? I mean, this is a big issue, right? If you're good at a lot of things, which one do you focus on? Do you choose one? What are the pros and cons of choosing one area to be the expert in versus the other? I think it's one thing to say, become the expert, and everybody's going to want to get to know you. But do you have the skill set? Is this something you're interested in? Now we need to get into what it's going to take for us to develop our expertise. It says you likely have a deep pool of skill sets already. And how do you decide which ones to develop? Start by considering your personal passions, what interests you most, where do your talents naturally lie. Choosing something that you genuinely care about and what you have aptitude for will be more motivating than something you find dull or difficult to master. Then consider the skills that matter in your industry. Which areas are valued most or will be useful in the future? Also look for knowledge gaps in your organization, areas that underserved or which have potential to make huge difference in the long term. Focusing on this is also a good way to future-proof your career. And if you work with clients, consider which skills and techniques they value. How could developing expertise in that particular area be a benefit to them? I think this is an important point here. It's easy. Well, it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort to become the expert. You're going to invest 10,000 hours or however many hours it's going to take. So strategically thinking about what are your options to become an expert in is just as important as going through the effort to become the expert. And I think that's one of those things where we, as non-experts in specific areas, we don't know what we don't know. And so if you go pick something based on a passion and something that you love, that's great, but what is the ultimate goal? What is the objective? What is it? This is a means, right? It's a means to the end. So from that perspective, how do you go about choosing it? And I like what they've said here. They said you really have to look for gaps in the organization, gaps in the market. And that's part of figuring out what the future will be like, which is very difficult to do, but I think it's very important. You don't want to become an expert in an area that is completely obsolete or outdated. Now, there might be some use for that. It might be something you like or something that you just want to do, but it's not going to give you the gains that you may be hoping for. So in understanding what your outcome is, what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish with being an expert is just as important as picking the expertise. Number 2, they say schedule some time. I think this is kind of obvious, but we do need to schedule time and figure out how do we make a commitment to becoming the expert after work. If you're not an expert in a specific field and spending all day working on that particular expertise, then you're going to have to invest time after work. Are you willing to do that? Number 3 is build your knowledge. Now it's time to start building your expertise. Find all the information that you need to become and to be seen as an expert. For instance, will you need specific qualifications? What credentials will you need? Do you need formal training, etc.? Well, if you want to be an expert in heart surgery and you are not a doctor, then that could give you some ideas of what your path would be. I also suggest finding a mentor. Joining clubs, and I like this one. Look at LinkedIn, Twitter, and other clubs to find people to associate with. And I know in my second book, I spent a lot of time talking about being in the right place in the right time. And getting there is important because when you start to deal with like-minded people, the ideas start to naturally flow. Number 4 is share your knowledge. You'll need to share your expertise in order to put it to good use and establish your personal brand and reputation. Here we go with personal brand. So how do you do that? Look for public speaking events, write a blog, volunteer as an expert source. There's websites like Help a Reporter Out, Haro, and ProfNet are great ways to locate these opportunities. You can contact relevant media outlets directly. For example, you could offer to write a column for a trade publication or your local newspaper. Many marketers use those to find experts. Creating information on products, webinars, ebooks, podcasts, online videos are all additionally great ways. Helping others with your expertise. And finally, they say avoid the expertise trap. You must continue to learn and open to new possibilities. The knowledge and skills that you have successfully done in the past won't always be the right ones for the future. So you always have to be ready to adapt. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about putting your plan in place. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. You're listening to My Strategy. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, in case you missed this broadcast, you can listen on iHeartRadio, Apple, iTunes. And if you'd like to have something covered in the show, send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. or give us a call at 1-844-MY-STRATEGY. That's 1-844-MY-STRATEGY. Well, this week we've been talking about developing your expert power, talking about the value in being the expert, the benefit of the expert. We talked a little bit about why we need them, become the go-to person, leverage experts for your gain, and help find your expert power. Today we talked about why they are important in our lives. We learned that experts really are faster at problem solving than others. Non-experts sometimes come across as experts. Non-experts are afraid of experts because they might reveal that they don't know what they don't know. But we do need some generalists in our lives when it comes to generalists and expert knowledge. So I think it's important to really figure out what the balance is between experts and generalists. Both have benefits. Figuring out the combination of those two is important. But why do we need to have be an expert in something? Well, being an expert in something helps us to build a personal brand, helps us to attract people, gain influence, attract attention. People will want to be around us. It's going to help us from being able to meet new people, open doors. I think that's really important. And this is going to help you not only at work, but also in your personal lives. If you want to meet new people, try new things, being an expert can open those doors for you. Experts do differ from novices. We also learned today that experts have content knowledge, and not just content knowledge, but deep content knowledge. Expert knowledge cannot be reduced to just a set of facts. Experts can flexibly retrieve aspect of knowledge with little or no efforts. We also learned about some studies with some chess masters who were monitored and asked what their moves were going to be as they were going through the various moves. And it came to find out that those who were the masters and were the better chess players instinctively knew how to pick the more effective solutions as opposed to a move. We also talked about reasons why you must become an expert. And I think it's important that the world is changing. We now have search engines. People don't care if you have an expert. And also, creating content is easier if you know something. But it all comes down to making sure that we break bad habits, are consciously prioritizing and committing to our goals, and gaining clarity. So I think as I start to reflect on expertise and how important it is in lives, I think it definitely is something we all should be focusing on. Strategically, we want to figure out who is going to help guide us in our expertise search. Do we have a good generalist who can help identify what are our options? And once we've figured out those options and are ready to be the experts, then we need to start to commit the time and get into becoming the expert, which is not something you're going to get overnight. There's going to be a large investment in time and potentially other resources to be able to do that. And, the other thing that comes to mind is having a coach and somebody who can help you get to that point is important as well. Because many times while we feel that we can do these things on our own, many times we aren't aware of the other options, and it becomes difficult for us to know which choices are the better choices. And that's where I think it's important. The more you know and the more you open yourself up to all of these opportunities, the more opportunities you're going to get. And it comes down to sharing what you know. As you become the expert, not only become the expert, but share that knowledge. And by sharing that knowledge, people are going to be attracted to you. Well, that's all the show we have for today. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next time.